The reason there hasn't been a simple, reliable way to deal with natural greying is straightforward. Greying isn't caused by one thing going wrong. It's a cascade of interconnected biological changes, each nudging the next. Change one piece, and the rest can still pull the system toward grey. But if we understand the full cascade, what actually drives each hair grey, the pattern starts to make sense. In this video, we will walk through the underlying mechanisms, explore why single-fix ideas have struggled, and sketch out what a more complete systems view of greying looks like. Beneath the skin, each strand of hair grows from a pocket called a hair follicle, a tiny pigment factory. Inside, the workers, cells called melanocytes, make melanin. This pigment is passed into the growing hair shaft, giving it its colour. Because the workers are short-lived, the factory depends on a protected seed bank of stem cells stored in the bulge niche. When that seed bank runs dry, no new workers arrive, and new hairs grow without pigment. The story of greying is tied to the health and behaviour of that seed bank. Greying happens through 6 connected changes. First, the stem cells that renew colour start to run low or lose their signals. Second, stress hormones from nearby nerves put extra pressure on the follicle. Third, the cells that make pigment run short on basic materials like tyrosine and copper. Fourth, the hair's metabolism slows, and the signals that tell pigment genes to turn on become less clear. Fifth, the hair strand becomes weaker and doesn't hold colour as well. And sixth, hydrogen peroxide builds up inside the follicle, gently bleaching it from within. Each one adds pressure to the next. Together, they form the full picture of why hair turns grey. Let's look at each of these drivers in detail. Why does the pigment factory start failing with age? In the bulge area of each hair follicle lives a reserve of stem cells that turn into new melanocytes, the cells that make pigment when a new hair grows. But over time, this reserve of stem cells collects damage and begins to slow down. As the chemical signals that guide them weaken with age, some stem cells stay stuck in their safe niche instead of moving to the pigment zone where new melanocytes are needed. So even though the follicle keeps growing hair, fewer colour cells reach it, and new strands come out lighter or grey. There's another way the pigment factory can fail: stress. Intense stress doesn't just affect mood or hormones, it also reaches the hair follicle itself. Sympathetic nerves that wrap around the follicle release noradrenaline right next to the niche. That sudden surge jolts every dormant stem cell into action at once. For a moment, the system is more active, but it's burning through its reserves. In a single burst, the seed bank can empty, leaving fewer stem cells to renew pigment in future cycles. Severe stress leaves a lasting mark, and repeated spikes drain the system faster than it can recover. The main ingredient behind hair colour is an amino acid called L-tyrosine. Inside the pigment cells, it's turned into melanin, the substance that gives hair its colour. That conversion depends on a key enzyme called tyrosinase, and for tyrosinase to work, it needs copper. When tyrosine runs low, there's not enough raw material to start the reaction. When copper is missing, the enzyme can't complete it. Together, they form the chemical foundation of colour production, and without them, pigment simply can't be made. Even a healthy follicle needs 2 things: clear gene signals and enough cell fuel. Gene signals come from tiny chemical tags on DNA that tell pigment genes when to work. Those tags are made by a loop that depends on folate and B12. When these vitamins run low, fewer tags are made, and the signal to produce pigment gets fuzzy. And the melanosomes, the tiny packets that actually make the pigment, stop getting a clear command to do it. At the same time, other B vitamins help cells turn food into ATP, the fuel they use to work. With low fuel or fuzzy signals, pigment cells don't produce enough colour, even if everything else looks fine. After pigment is made and transferred, the strand still has to hold it. The hair shaft is a layered protein structure made of keratin. Inside, keratin forms a dense cortex that holds pigment granules. Outside, it forms cuticle tiles that seal the strand. When keratin is organised and intact, the strand is strong, less porous, and colour looks rich. When keratin is damaged, tiles lift, pores open, light scatters, and colour washes out faster. So structure sets how much pigment shows, and how long it stays visible. There's one more force that pushes hair toward grey: oxidative stress, a build-up of reactive byproducts that can harm cells. Inside cells, hydrogen peroxide is one of those byproducts, and catalase is a cleanup enzyme that splits it into water and oxygen. With age, catalase falls and peroxide builds up. Two things follow. Existing melanin is bleached, and the enzyme that makes new pigment is damaged. It's a double hit. Colour fades faster, and new colour is made more slowly. Now, connect the dots. Changes in the stem cell reserve reduce how many pigment-producing cells reach the follicle. Stress signals from nearby nerves can place additional pressure on that reserve. Limited substrate or cofactors slow the chemical steps involved in producing pigment. Shifts in metabolic support and gene signalling make pigment activity less consistent. Structural changes in the hair shaft influence how much colour is visible. And increasing oxidative stress can affect both existing pigment and the enzymes involved in forming new pigment. These forces stack and feed each other. The result is a steady shift from pigmented to grey. Grey hair doesn't arise from a single change, so focusing on one area alone doesn't alter the overall picture. For example, reducing stress may influence the stem cell environment, but it doesn't affect the structure of the hair shaft. One area shifts while others stay the same. Any framework for understanding greying needs to look at all 6 biological areas together: stem cell behaviour, stress signalling, pigment chemistry, metabolic factors, hair shaft structure, and oxidative processes, because these changes interact rather than act in isolation.